that the lockdown is yielding very positive impact. This is the fourth day that we're having declined the number of new cases and even deaths in the UK. It's not that exponential, it's not that quantum leap, but it's just little tiny numbers that are good indicators of good prognosis so far. So that means we are gradually getting to the peak of the virus, and gradually will come down and flatten the curve. And that is why I quite applaud the effort of the president in ensuring that the lockdown has been extended in Nigeria, because with that singular action alone, if there is good public enlightenment and people adhere strictly to the lockdown rules, we will be seeing some positive changes very soon.
Finally, global figures are showing that 120,000 people have died due to the virus, and that the death toll is climbing. But the stats also show we have more people recovering from the infection rather than dying with it. What would you say is responsible in terms of the treatment now across the board?
Yeah. Obviously, we know that there is no established treatment yet for COVID-19. Everything that is being done now is supportive measures. That's why we are emphasizing more on people taking preemptive measures so as not to become positive with the virus. And in terms of treatment, people who are at risk, the high risk ones, are the ones that will probably need ventilators at the end of the day. So adequate measures are being taken also to ensure that all these equipments are in place, and people who need them will get them at the right time. But in general, people just need to adhere by all the guidelines which have been meted out already, so that we have less number of cases, and we can gradually come towards the end of the spread of this virus, because there seems not to be any acceptable identified treatment so far.
Many thanks, and do stay safe. Dr. Iyala Douglas-Pepple, General Practitioner, Registrar, Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Norfolk, England. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Still to come on our COVID-19 updates, it's called a crisis like no other. IMF describes the global decline as the worst since the Great Depression of the 1930s. We have that in a moment. Welcome back. And from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, the total number of confirmed cases in Nigeria at the moment is 343. So far, a total of 91 persons have been discharged. 10 deaths recorded. A breakdown of the cases in each of the states show Lagos with 189 cases, Abuja 56, Osun with 20 cases, Edo has 14 cases, Oyo 11, 9 in Ogun State, Bauchi and Kaduna have 6 cases each, Akwa Ibom, Katsina 5 cases each, Kwara now has 4 cases, Ondo, Delta and Kano 3 cases each, Enugu, Ekiti, Rivers have 2 cases, Benue, Niger and Anambra recording 1 case each. The Minister of Health has been explaining why the Benue State Index case, Susan Idoko, cannot be released yet, even though she has exceeded the 14 days isolation requirement. He says that the last result is still positive and another test is being planned according to protocol until it turns negative. Then she can leave the facility.
And we will push Benue case. This is a person who came from abroad and was heading to Benue, actually headed to Benue, and was feeling unwell, taken to a hospital and tested and was positive and placed in isolation in Benue. I have said before that people who are infected with coronavirus can have no symptoms, they can have mild symptoms, they can have moderate symptoms, and they can have very serious symptoms. But even without symptoms, they can be infectious. Now, this person soon recovered from the symptoms and started to doubt the test that she had undergone. And apparently there was a some altercation that led the authorities there to call me. And I actually spoke with the person, and I heard that they was disputing the result because she felt very well and felt that she wasn't shown the actual result. The third complaint was that she was not comfortable where she was being kept. So we now arranged for the transfer to another more comfortable facility, and requested a second test, and the test also came out positive.
Well, joining us to dissect the issues of the pandemics in the studio is Dr. Doyin Odubanjo. He's a public health physician. We'd like to thank you for joining us on the program. Starting with what the Minister of Health said about the index case in Benue, he called it a classical case, someone who feels that she's healthy and she's strong and there's nothing wrong with her, but then she's testing positive, and it looks like for a second time, and until she tests negative before she is released. I mean, are these some of the asymptomatic situation we've been told about the virus?
Well, apparently so. Majority of the cases actually asymptomatic. Meaning that also, as we ramp up tests, you get a lot more people like that. You get a lot more positive cases, and people wonder, oh, we didn't know that there were sick people around us, but they're just positive for the virus, but they won't show any symptoms. I think basically what went wrong or might have gone wrong there is in communication. And I think they blew it from the get-go, in the sense that she heard about the result or supposed result or the fact that she was thought to be positive on the TV or the radio.
Still talking about all of that information, one thing the NCDC Director General talked about today in his brief was the challenge in, he called it process engineering. He said that the problem wasn't capacity, but really making response more efficient. So, that also brings to mind what's happening in Benue and what might have happened in Anambra. How do you think they can perhaps work together to ensure that the processes, teams out on the field, identifying the right samples and taking the right samples to the labs work?
Well, it's about doing an audit, and a strategy session where you sit down, you look at what needs to be done, and you all discuss it. What's the best way to get it done? What's the best way to move from point A to point B? These are not things you handle carelessly either. So who will be the best person to move it from here to there? Mind you, for instance, if you're taking from Benue, you're sending it to Abuja for testing. That's quite a distance. So all of those things have to be discussed. What will be the fastest mode of transport? Who's going to handle it? And then even in the lab, when it comes in, how does it go from one desk to the other? Until it comes right back out with the result. How do you handle all of those things properly and smoothly?
So it's another 2-week extension, lockdown in Lagos, Ogun, the FCT. What do you think we would achieve in terms of, reducing the spread? Because we're not saying we're trying to eradicate it, which is not possible, is it?
Not quite. The point is that at least for one, you'll achieve a lot more awareness. People are angry, and they will start asking, why have I been kept at home? And hopefully, I, for one, hope that more people will therefore know, get to know about, get the essential information they need to know about what's going on, about the virus and how it spreads. But also, definitely, you get a lot more chance to basically go in door to door, community to community, not just testing, but also educating. I think the education is far more important, actually, because once you get the people's cooperation through education, you won't need all the law enforcement and all that as much, and you'll control the spread much.
All right, we'd like to appreciate your time, public health physician, Dr. Doyin Odubanjo, for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Now, all those whose vehicles were impounded for minor traffic offences from the 1st of March till date will have their cars released to them free of charge after the COVID-19 order is relaxed. The Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, said this today during the briefing at Marina Lagos. However, those arrested after today's briefing would not enjoy the privilege. The Governor also revealed that the state government is planning a daily kitchen food program to address the challenges of food insecurity in the state. The state government will also release funds to indigent Lagosians, about 250,000 of them, before the end of this week. Now, riding on the example of the federal government, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa today announced a dusk to dawn curfew in Delta State. The total lockdown became necessary following the upscale in the number of cases and the need for contact tracing in the state. Our correspondent Vivian Oramadike brings this update.
Considering the increase in the number of cases of the coronavirus in Delta State and in Nigeria as a whole, the state government has announced the extension of the lockdown for another 2 weeks.
I want to assure you that we have continued to do contact tracing. 70 contacts have been identified. 46 of them have actually been reached, and we are still doing our best to get the remaining 24. For the safety of our people and to enable us track, identify, isolate, and test all contacts by the powers vested on me in line with the Quarantine Act and the subsequent Infectious Disease Regulation 2020. I hereby extend the stay-at-home order for another period of 2 weeks.
Hundreds of thousands of face masks are currently being produced by the state government. These masks will be distributed free of charge to every Deltan to ensure that this disease is contained. Health workers on the front line of the battle against this deadly virus have been assured of the state government's support and compensation, which they believe will help boost their morale even as they go about their normal duties to contain this deadly disease. From Asaba, Vivian Oramadike, Channels Television News.
Well, the IMF says the global economy will contract by 3% this year as countries around the world shrink at the fastest pace in a decade. Well, the IMF has described the global decline as the worst since the Great Depression of the 1930s.
This is a deep recession. It is a recession that involves solvency issues. It is it's a recession that involves unemployment rates going up dramatically. And these tend to leave scars. And while there are many very strong policy actions being taken, some of this will spill over into the second half of this year and into 2021. On the question of debt, there has been sizable fiscal expansion as is required at this time. But again, the U.S. is able to borrow at very, very low rates. We have had this experience before when during the global financial crisis, there was a big increase in debt in the U.S., but that came down quickly in terms of a ratio of GDP once the crisis started abating. Something similar could happen this time around. There could be an increase with the kind of growth projections we have and the kinds of interest rates we are foreseeing going forward. We could see an improvement in the debt trajectory once the recovery starts.
IMF's chief economist on the global impact of the pandemic. Well, that's our COVID-19 special edition on Channels Television. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to take responsibility. The NCDC has their website live, also the World Health Organization, with updates, numbers, information, all you need to know about the coronavirus pandemic in your home, in your state, in your country. Do join us again. Another update comes your way at 9 p.m. I'm Millicent Wonwoka. Stay safe.